Okay. 540 hertz gaming is something else. 1080.
I want this monitor to be really good because I
Dang.
do actually play games at over 500 frames per second, and I want to see all of those frames. But I have reviewed a 500Hz monitor previously, and it was disappointing. The response times are pretty average, and the image was really soft. But this one is different. But before I
Oh,
tell you how unique this monitor is, I'm actually going to tell you all the bad stuff first. So it's only 1080p. It's only 24 inches. It has a
okay. To me, none of these things are bad so far. The monitor I'm looking at right now is 1080, but mine's like I think it's a 27 inch, but I could care less about 24 or 27. For me, I usually prefer the performance aspect of a monitor over the looks of it. But that's just me. Like like when people play video games, they play for a variety of reasons, and one reason isn't necessarily better than the other. It's just buy the monitor that for the reason that you want. All right, that's it.
TN panel in 2023. It
Hmm.
has an extremely goofy stand and it is very expensive. Now that that's all out of the
Okay, so I would say since this is the earliest or one of the early models of 540 hertz monitors, of course they're going to be expensive. He hasn't even said the price yet, but I'm just going to ballpark it and take a wild guess. I'm going to say this is anywhere from 1500 to 2K just for the monitor. Um yeah, I'm just guessing. But I mean, you guys remember when the 1080 came out and then 2K and then 4K TVs came out like 10, 15, 20 years ago? The very first of those TVs were expensive as shit. And now look, you can go down to Walmart and get a 4K TV for like $100 now or something. I don't know. I'm just messing around really. But they're super cheap. 4K TVs are really cheap. And yes, monitors are not TVs, but that is the trend with technology. The new stuff comes out, the better stuff comes out. In the beginning, it's really expensive because it's new and shiny. And then as time goes on, more and more people want to, different companies want to compete for the buyer. And with more competitors, they just lower the price of their product because, yeah, more competitors making similar products is good for the consumer. So, yeah,
wait, let me show you something really cool. So there are a lot of 360 hertz monitors out there today,
yeah.
and
I mean, by the way, just as FYI, like the monitor I have is only 240 hertz, and I got this thing like maybe a year or two ago. So I think like the jump from 144 to 240 hertz was astounding. It was amazing. All right. But I haven't even got on board yet with like 360, and now 540's coming out. Oh my god. Like I can't imagine computers, like very many computers, like being able to run games at 540 hertz outside of Counter-Strike, Overwatch, and Valorant maybe. That's about it. Maybe there's a couple more, but that's just off the top of my head. But god dang, the smoothness that you see a difference going from 144 to 240 is huge. So if I were me personally, I don't even want to get a 360 hertz monitor now. I want to wait till the 540s come out, and I just want to go from 240 to 500 the next time I upgrade my computer.
I think we'd all agree the jump from 240 hertz to 360 is a small one. The jump from 360 hertz to 540 hertz is also not as massive as it sounds.
But if I would say for the most part, most I would guess PC gamers are still rocking like 144 hertz. like over here, I would say that's where the majority of people at. Now, if you go a peg over, I would say after this majority, a lot of people got 240. And then, it's going to be less and less, not even that many. And besides, for the, like, to my knowledge, the types of people that are getting these monitors are FPS bros, plain and simple. All right. Nobody is over here trying to play, I don't know, the Sims at 360 hertz or 540 hertz. No one is over here trying to play a Hearthstone at 360 hertz or whatever. No one's over here trying to play World of Warcraft at this many frames per second. This is actually insane. It's mostly just FPS bros.
But now you have a huge difference between 240 and 540 hertz.
Oh.
It's over a doubling in the amount of frames.
Yeah.
And the boost in overall smoothness is just insane.
Okay, so on my monitor, and probably for you, you're not going to be able to see the difference, but I can't really see the difference because I'm only looking at this at 244 hertz. This is me. And plus it's off YouTube, and let me see. YouTube only goes, well, I can't even see like this good stuff up here, so I'm just right here. But what he's referring to is the smoothness when you go in game. How I can describe it is essentially your monitor is refreshing at a faster rate, and I honestly would imagine the screen is like considerably hotter, because if I stick my hand like kind of above or like near the top of my monitor, I can feel some heat radiating off it. Okay, like the screen is warm, but I got a fan over here, but I can't imagine how hot a 540 hertz monitor is. I mean, it probably won't be anything, as significant or whatever, but god dang. Okay.
I've never said that about any 360 hertz monitor, but 540 really kicks it into a different gear. And I know we're looking at super slow motion footage here.
Oh yeah. Okay, so if you look, this little triangle is moving really smoothly, and then on the 360 one, it kind of gets a little skippy, and then 240, it gets a little more skippy, kind of like PowerPoint slides or whatever, like tick, tick, tick. And then this is like tick, tick. And then this up here is just insanely smooth.
But I felt this difference as soon as I turned this thing on. 540 hertz, it is one of the craziest things I've ever seen on a monitor. And it's this one here, the Asus PG248QP. Very weird model name as usual, and yeah, the specs for the most part are pretty mediocre. 1080p TN in 2023 does not sound very good on paper at all. I will say though, for being...
But for the most part, who's your audience? Who's your main audience you're catering to for this type of monitor? FPS bros. They know, Asus knows, the FPS bros don't give a shit about the size. They don't give a shit about the color, the view angle. All right. To some degree, maybe the shading, the shadows, like the highlights and the shadows, I mean. But those are all secondary to the smoothness of the image.
A TN panel, this thing actually looks pretty good, like surprisingly good. If you're familiar with Zowie monitors, which also use TN panels, and they all look pretty similar, this thing is in a different league entirely. The amount of contrast that you have here, and the amount of colors that this panel can display, honestly puts the TN Zowies to shame. And this thing actually has a DCI-P3 rating of almost 90%, which is just unheard of for a TN panel. What that means is that when you start cranking up the vibrance and the saturation in game, you're not going to get that like really bad color banding and blobbing, which you do see on the Zowies and other TN monitors. In fact, this actually looks better, ironically, than the 500Hz Alienware, despite that using an IPS panel. The colors on that thing are dull and very lifeless. This thing is very contrasty, pretty punchy. The only thing that's bad is the viewing angles, but I mean, come on, we're all playing on a monitor viewing straight on.
Yeah, come on. Everyone that is buying this monitor is playing their game like this. All right, that's what they're doing. They got their head right up the ass of their monitor.
The reason for it being TN in the first place though are the response times. At a refresh rate of 500 Hz, you're getting 1 frame every 2 milliseconds.
Dang.
And that means that the pixels need to have a response time faster than that number. If they don't, then you get ghosting and smearing. And as for the 500 Hz Alienware, well, it just hits that value as an average, meaning that overall, it is actually missing that mark some of the time. This new 540 Hz though is an absolute weapon. This has the fastest response times that I've tested from a non-OLED display.
Dang. Thank you. Where were you at? Like Asus, LG, Asus was there we go. Okay. 1.4 1.4 on the Zowie at the 360 Hz. Oh, god dang, but most people are still using Zowies anyway. So I don't know. Maybe this will be the new standard until Zowie comes out with their own 540 Hz monitor to just completely stomp the Asus, but we'll see.
1.1 milliseconds when using the normal overdrive setting, and under 1 millisecond response times when using the
overdrive. Okay, so I had no idea that this was a thing. Overdrive esports, overdrive normal. Like what? What the heck does this mean? Oh wait, percent average overshoot? Okay. Okay, I have no idea. Like, what is overdrive mode? Is that just like, is overdrive mode the new word of overclock? Or it's just like a mode that you hit on like your monitor, like one of the buttons on the bottom? I have no idea what overdrive mode is.
The esports mode. So yeah, we can meme all we want about a TN monitor launching at the end of 2023, but with the results like that, there is clearly a reason. Now, in terms of what this actually looks like when targets are moving around on your screen and you're tracking them with your eyes, I use a moving camera test and some strafing targets from Overwatch 2 to simulate the amount of ghosting that you'll see on different monitors. And IPS 500 Hz versus the new TN.
Bro, it is the Alienware 500. And then this is the 540 Hz. Like, I'm trying to see like the edges. Like, I'm looking at the red line right here, and are they thinner or thicker? Maybe slightly thinner on here versus the Alienware. If any, I can't really discern a difference.
540 Hz, pretty crazy difference on the Alien.
Really? I mean, this image is like obviously more clear. Or is that what he means? Like the image is more clear and not so much of like a double image or a triple image, like falling, like fading behind or whatever. I think that's what he means.
Alienware, even the target's name becomes a complete solid blob of red.
Shit. Oh,
and
yeah.
there's just not much punch left to the image at all.
Yeah.
This also shows one of the biggest advantages of TN versus IPS, and that's how fast the response times are specifically for those blacks and darker colors.
Dang.
While the average response time here is 0.9 milliseconds, they're actually closer to 0.3 to 0.5 when switching to those darker shades. So contrast and detail, it doesn't fade at all like IPS can during really fast gameplay. Even if you don't care about the amount of detail and sharpness, which, you know, I can understand,
this is
take
really
a look at
clear.
the amount of overall clarity and contrast that you can see on the 540 Hz TN. It is
seldom are enemies ever this clear in Overwatch or any FPS game, because in most FPS games there is an absurd amount of visual clutter in almost every game. Okay, so take note of this. This is just a rarity among rarities. In a real game, not only is this guy shooting at you, his 3 other teammates that are protecting him that he's wall running towards are also shooting a bunch of shit at you. Okay, so not only are the enemies more clear, but the visual clutter of said game is also way more clear. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt.
A really big difference. But it gets even better. This monitor also has ULMB2, which is currently the best motion blur reduction mode that you can get. And yeah, it does sharpen things up a little bit more.
Nice.
I mean, at this point, even without ULMB2, the image is absurdly clear, so there's not much improvement that can be made. But yeah, pretty insane to see backlight strobing at a monstrous 540 Hz. Compared to the God mode monitor at the moment though, the 1440p 360 Hz PG27.
Okay, so we got the Asus OLED, which is right here, and then we got the Zowie with Diac on. I was just looking at the names. Uh, this is like dog shit right here. All of these are like it's increasing in clarity, and I think this is the 360 hertz, and this is also a 360 hertz, and this is the 540 hertz. I mean, this is obviously the most clear, but the jump from like going from here to here, like from here to there, is pretty substantial. Going from here to there, not so much. But going from here to there, like you could like look at the U or just look at all the spacing between the letters, and versus this one versus this one. Yeah, it's pretty noticeable.
7 AQN, they're about even when both have ULMB2 switched on. The new 540Hz is a bit sharper in a few areas, and the moving background as well does look smoother at that higher refresh rate. I will say though, without ULMB2, the 540Hz is the clearer option. So yeah, this 540Hz monitor, I hate to say it because, you know, the mediocre specs and it is very expensive, but it really is something. And I think the best way to explain...
Did Optimum do a fucking like ARM day today or the day before? Like, what is this bicep just popping out? God damn.
The experience of 540Hz is that it feels like you're looking through a window and not at a screen, if that makes sense. It's just this unparalleled level of smoothness that is the closest thing to real life that you'll ever see on a monitor. I mean, if the jump from 240 to 360Hz wasn't obvious, 240 to 540 is actually a night and day difference. You can notice the subtleties in player animations and crosshair movement that just aren't there at lower refresh rates. Even just moving through the map and watching basic animations and stuff like that, it is a surreal level of smoothness. Like, you actually...
Like, I can tell that he's on the 540 hertz right here, and even this little image looks crazy realistic. Well, in motion. I'm talking about the motions look realistic. It's crazy how liquidy smooth it looks. It's crazy, man. To really see the difference, you probably have to go to like a Best Buy or something, because they usually have like the monitor displays. Like they do that little thing where it's like, this is 60 hertz, this is 144 hertz, and this silky smooth one is 240 hertz. And then you wiggle the mouse on one, and then you see how much ghosting is on it, and then you wiggle the mouse on the next one, and there's even less ghosting, and then even more so. So I mean, I really doubt they're gonna have these type of things at Best Buy, so you could like step in and see the difference. But oh my god, it's so nice.
Kind of forget that frame rate or refresh rate are even a thing, because it basically feels as smooth as real life. Another thing I noticed was that at 240Hz, I sometimes get these like breaks in focus, like my eyes will need to readjust to what's happening on the screen after a lot of movement or action. I still get these at 360Hz too, but at 540, they're just not there. Playing Tracer in Overwatch 2, which is extremely fast paced, the difference in smoothness between my 240Hz OLED and this 540Hz TN was insane. It's actually the first monitor I've played on where I almost feel bad for using it. Don't get me wrong though, you know, downgrading from my 1440p monitor to this 1080, I was definitely missing that higher resolution. There were more than a few times where I was like trying to aim at a target a little bit further off in the distance, and they just looked a little bit soft and mushy, where on my 1440p OLED, that is just never a thought. The image quality on that thing is so good. Like, it's to the point where I feel like when I'm playing, I'm in a movie. I feel like I'm the main character in the game, and everyone else is just participating. It's just a different level of immersion. 540Hz, 1080, TN, yeah, it's not that same kind of immersion. You're definitely fully aware that you're playing a game on a smaller monitor with, you know, worse contrast and colors, and shooting at a collection of pixels. But if you want to talk about having an actual advantage and never losing track of a moving target, the choice is very clear. Again,
or if you're trying to get that slightly better Kovac score or AimLab score, this could be a monitor. It could help.
And it is just unreal and almost unfair how smooth this monitor is. To actually unlock that 540Hz experience though, you do need to be running at over 500 frames per second, which only a few games can do. So if you primarily play Apex...
Hey, Kovac and AimLab do that, and I think Aim Beast. Those are some pretty good games.
Apex, Battlefield, Call of Duty... yeah, this is not the monitor for you. You're probably better off with like a 1440, 240Hz, or maybe even the 360Hz options instead. I'll also mention brightness, which is not an issue here, which is really great to see. This is actually the third brightest monitor that I've tested.
Oh, dang.
And even with ULMB2, it can run at like 350 nits, which is plenty bright. Now, if you are interested in this, really novel 540Hz experience, which again is really something I will say, which Asus are probably not going to like, is that I would maybe recommend just waiting for another monitor to come out using this same panel. And that's because as much as I really like what Nvidia has done with the monitor space, with their reflex latency analyzer and ULMB2 and the physical G-Sync module, those features really drive the price up here quite a bit. And to be honest, I've actually found my...
So because it's one of the first ones that are really high refresh rate with 540 hertz with all that other shit, ULMB and whatever else he said, they get the type of person that's gonna buy this has to have enough disposable income that this isn't an issue. Like, oh, this is the new greatest, speediest, liquidy, smoothiest one. Sure, let me go get this one. For like an average person, you should probably not buy this unless you got the disposable income and you don't give a fuck. Then it's your money, do whatever you want with it. But if I were to advise someone, you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, I would probably just wait, because in a couple months all the other companies are going to come out with their 540 hertz monitors and be like, okay, now we here at the party, boys, we got our 540 hertz out. Okay, let's see what, let's see who's got the biggest dick. Okay, just wait.
Myself playing without ULMB2 here most of the time. This monitor is so good even without it, and I was seeing some occasional dips in Overwatch below 540, making it less effective. The primary benefits as well of that physical G-Sync module are mostly apparent at lower refresh rates, which most people...
Bro, is there a fan in the monitor? Is that what I just saw? Holy shit. Do I got a fan in the back of my monitor? Oh my god, this is news to me.
Won't be using this monitor for. This thing is supposed to launch at $900 US, which...
Oh, okay. So I was a little off. What did I say? I said 1,500 to 2K. So I'm out of touch and stupid.
Is pretty steep for a 1080p monitor, but at the same time, is it overpriced if it unlocks an experience which you can't get anywhere else? Yeah, I personally don't know. Hopefully there are some non-reflex models that come out which are quite a bit cheaper. But again, you go from 144 to 240, that's a pretty noticeable jump in smoothness. 240 to 360, it's a small increase that is a little bit easier on the eyes. And then you can chuck on some backlight strobing like ULMB2 or Diac, and things start to sharpen up quite a bit. But nothing has given me that window-like experience that this 540Hz monitor has. And, if I'm being honest, I don't know how much smoother things can get from this point on.
Hey, it's Matt. You're...
Oh, man. Of course it can get smoother, Optimum. It can always get smoother. Oh, man. That was a good one. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to see that. So, like, when I made my computer, I made my two computers, like, my little setup, like, what, 4 or 5 years ago? And I don't know, they're still working fine. I mean, I got what do I got? I got like some 2080s or some shit in there. I mean, they're still working. I still got a couple years left in there. But it is nice to see the leaps and bounds of technology that are, constantly, happening as I watch. And that's really cool, because when I go to upgrade, I'm going to be, it's still like super exciting for me, because, I like fucking gaming and I like doing all this shit, and it's like, oh, I get the new shiny toy. So yeah, But overall, it was another good video. And, you know, he's just keeping everybody in the loop. So, yeah. Another good one from Optimum, and I love it. So, that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you on the next one, all right? Take care.